Welcome to episode 25 of the Bonding and Beer podcast. I am Rolando Nunez. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about warming composites. Let's go, my guys. Let's go. Welcome to the podcast. Well, what has Rolando been up to? Like I mentioned before, I got a little food trailer, my little side hustle. We're going to be making some smash burgers and whatnot. But because I bought this food trailer from overseas, the wiring, the plumbing is a little bit out of whack. So I had to put it, I had to fix a few things, and a few things turn out into a lot of things, and basically I am redoing the whole damn thing. It is crazy. I had to change the plumbing. I had to change the wiring. I had to change some of the, the tail lights. They had different colors because apparently in other countries, they don't believe in red or white. They believe in things like, I don't know, orange and green in their tail lights. So I had to change that. The wiring was definitely different than the U.S. The outlets were, they look similar to what we use in the U.S., but they're definitely not up to code. So all in all, it's been an experience. I will say that if I had to do it all over again, I will probably buy the trailer already built here in the U.S. because what I saved by buying it overseas, I'm spending it, now and trying to put it up to code and to make it actually functional. But hey, man, that's my journey. And I'm documenting everything, and I've met a bunch of cool people. And our first event is going to be in a store where they installed the hitch. The owner of the store told me, can we do a collaboration? We sell hitches and other things, and you do some burgers on a Saturday. Can we do that? I'm like, absolutely. I'll keep you up to date with that event. It's going to be a lot of fun. So another thing that I wanted to talk about is that ever since we started this Bonding and Beer podcast, I've been getting a lot of beers from my coworkers. But for the most part, the coworker will approach either me or Jeremy and say, hey, I got this beer. This is for you guys and, for the podcast. And we really appreciate that. But now I got random beer just showing up on my desk. And that's why I love the place that I work. Because for absolutely no reason, some random person just leaves 2 or 3 big, tall boys on my desk without a note or anything. Hey, and whoever did that, if you're watching, if you're listening, thank you. Thank you. We love random beer. Absolutely. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to follow. We are on Instagram at Bonding and Beer. We are on YouTube, Bonding and Beer. You can send us an email, bondingandbeer@gmail.com. Send us a note, comment, question, beer recommendation. We're here for you, and we're doing this for you. Let's go. So today's topic is going to be warming composites. And even though warming composites has been around for a while, it's making a comeback. It's making a comeback amongst young doctors. There is a lot of, social media attention to warming composites. And I think it's an interesting topic to develop today. But before we do that, let's crack open this beer. You know what I'm saying? So the beer we're going to be having today, it is called Farm Fresh. And this beer is done by a brewery called More Brewing, located in Huntley, Huntley, Illinois, but in collaboration with Gilbert's farm out of Pingree Grove in Illinois. So this is interesting. You have a farm and you have a brewery doing a collab, and we have this cool beer. The style of this beer is a Belgian ale. What makes a Belgian ale or what makes a Belgian beer is the type of yeast they use. Okay, so usually because of that yeast, the beer is going to have more fruity and spicy notes to it. Okay. It is due to that yeast that is used to ferment the beer. Usually, Belgian beers have a higher alcohol content. Now, a lot of people have told me, oh, I've had Belgian beer, Stella Artois. Stella Artois is made by Anheuser-Busch out of, I don't know, Cleveland. I don't know, somewhere here in the U.S. Stella Artois is sold as premium beer. Nothing against it, but a true Belgian beer is a little different now, okay? You can find Belgian beer anywhere in the U.S. There is one that is extremely popular. It's called Leffe, and that is the one of the most popular Belgian beers that you can have in Belgium, you know? And it's actually pretty good. It's kind of like a dark beer. So I'm assuming this is going to be a little dark. It's going to be... it's going to have some spicy notes. It's going, you know, to have more of a fruity flavor because it's the yeast they use to, you know, to ferment this one. This is the brewery description. A Belgian beer with beets from Gobert's farm, elderberry and ginger, slightly tart with floral undertones and a bright spicy ginger finish. So this is going to be a fruity one. This one, I believe, was brought to us by Cameron, who's part of the production team, along with Chase and, of course, Jeremy, the producer. So thanks, Cameron. Shout out to you. And we are going to basically, you know, crack this one open, see what's what. Man, I got to tell you, for those of you who are not watching but listening, that sound, I hope it triggers something, you know, that it triggers the want, the need to have a brewski while you're listening to this podcast. All right, so let's pour it. Pouring, again, is an art. I have perfected the art of pouring, okay? I am not a lame pourer. I'm a professional, so let's go. Ooh, this is a little different now. This is a little different now. Now, old Rolando would have immediately rejected this. And the reason why is because it's very reddish. It has, you know, the description talks about having beets in it, and I would have rejected that. Right now, I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. I'm not going to reject it. I am going to sniff it, and I'm going to have a little taste. For those of you who are listening, it looks like it's got beet in it. It's very red, okay? Dark red. It does have some beet smell to it. If you don't like beets, this may not be your jive. You can smell a little bit of, you know, the fruit in it. Let's give it a taste.
Sip, sip, sip.
Look, man. And this is why I want to thank Cameron. Because Cameron and Jeremy, the producer, were the ones who actually got me into at least giving fruity beers a shot. This is super interesting. And I will give it a review at the end, but this one I am definitely going to enjoy. Let's freaking go, guys. All right, man, let's talk about warming composites. For someone who's been a dentist for 30 years. I've been a dentist for 30 years. I practiced for a long time. So I've seen a lot of things that have come around, they faded away, and then they make a comeback. and then they fade away again, and then they make a comeback again. So I've seen a few of those cycles. And warming composites is not new. So whenever I see a 30-odd-year-old dentist talking about, this is the next generation of technology, and they're just warming a composite to cement a veneer, I'm like, what are you talking about, my guy? It's been around before your dad even thought about having you. So you need to chill. This is not new. And let me explain a little bit about what warming composite, how did it come about and why, right?
Sip, sip.
So warming composites, when you warm a composite at a specific temperature, usually above 50 degrees C, close to 60, and in some cases even up to 70 degrees Celsius, the composite's viscosity goes down, meaning it becomes more flowable. So when you have something that is more flowable, it has more ability for good adaptation. And warming composite existed before flowable composites, okay? So the main reason to warm a composite was to make it more flowable. So if you needed to put some composites in a proximal box, and you didn't want to have any sort of air or gaps, you will warm the composite. Also, you need to remember that the composites back in the late 80s, early 90s, they were extremely sticky. So whenever you were trying to pack a little bit of the composite, when you remove the instrument, there was something called pullback. So you created gaps. And there were so many issues with old school composites. Warming the composite was a way to mitigate, gap formation and adaptation issues, okay? The other thing is that light cure cements were not a thing, so a lot of people that wanted to do some veneer cementations, they started warming composites, because light cure cements were more shade stable, and also there is a reasoning behind using a composite for cementation procedures, is that a composite, you can reduce the viscosity, but the physical properties remain the same, so you will have a stronger cement. So that was the reasoning behind warming a composite. Now, so if you think about how long has it been, well, you can go and look at a company called Advent. Advent has been fabricating composite warmers since the beginning of time. They've been around for a long, long time. So this is not new. So if you look at the lifespan of Advent, which is still extremely active, they are the OGs of composite warmers, okay? They fabricate very good, durable devices with different attachments for different things, And Advent, it is a little bit of an investment compared to stuff that you can get now on Amazon, which I would not recommend, because I don't know if those things are accurate. They say it goes to a certain temperature. You don't know if it goes to the temperature. I don't know if those things are accurate. I do know that the Advent devices are extremely accurate. Those devices are the devices that we use here in the lab. And again, a shout out to the guys from Advent. This is not we are not associated with Advent, but we do recognize that they make good devices, Now, by using a composite warmer, taking the composite to a specific temperature, reducing the viscosity, or, you increase the flowability, you're going to accomplish all of that. But also, there is a thought process that the physical properties actually increase. You get better physical properties.
Sip, sip.
Such as hardness, wear resistance, and degree of conversion by heating the composite. And there is some data to support that. And if you want to cherry pick, the data that says that it does increase it, and use that in a presentation, or you decide to read that in order to convince yourself that you're doing a good thing, sure. There is data out there that establishes that heating a composite really doesn't have a lot of effect on the physical properties. I don't believe that heating the composite is going to have an effect on physical properties, a positive effect. I don't believe that. The reason why I don't believe that is because my thesis, my master's thesis, was on the effect of heating the composite at different temperatures on the physical properties and flowability of 27 commercially available composites in the year 2002. 2003, okay? That was my thesis to get my Master's of Science in Biomaterials. So I do know a little bit about warming composites because that was my thesis work. And I do know the behavior of some of these products. And I know what can be generalized, and I also know what cannot be generalized. I'm going to give a road tip at this point. One big road tip. And that road tip is this one. Regarding warming composites, not all composites behave the same after you warm them, okay? It is not a generalized behavior. Not all composites flow the same. Not all composites cool. The cool rate is different, and not all composites are able to achieve a specific thickness, okay, when it comes to the, to the cementation procedure. So that's a little road tip. And we're going to get back in, we're going to go back to that later on in this episode. So yes, your viscosity will change. Physical properties, not so much. We can say that it's product dependent. The degree of conversion, meaning is it going to be polymerized better? Yes, a little bit better. And the reason for all of this to happen is that when you heat up a composite, the molecules, the monomer molecules that are, kind of like together, at a certain temperature, the weak bonding is going to break. Your van der Waals forces, your secondary bonding is going to break. And now the molecules that were like this, now they're a little bit closer together and they can slide better one over the other. And this will decrease the viscosity. This will increase flowability. And that is the reason why when you heat up a composite, it becomes more flowable, all right? But in the same, following the same thought process, as the composite cools down, it goes back to its original viscosity. And this cooling rate is fast, my guy. It is extremely, extremely fast.
Sip, sip, sip.
And the reason why this is an issue is because you have a limited amount of working time after the composite has reached the desired temperature, and that temperature has created the desired effect on that material. Not many composites are designed to be heated or warmed. And by design, it's not related to what's going to happen when you heat it up. No, it's that by design, you can have data like cooling rate, like can you heat it up and cool it and heat it up again and cool it, go through that heating and cooling cycle. What happens to the product? Like by design, not a lot of composites, like as of now, only 3 composites have been designed to be heated up of all the products in the market, okay, that I know of. So that's something to consider, okay? Not all composites behave the same. Not all composites cool at the same rate. And not all composites will achieve the proper thickness. Why this last element is important, the thickness. If you're going to cement a veneer, for example, you need to understand that in order to cement that veneer, and when you press the veneer, once you've loaded the veneer with the warm composite and you press, you need all that excess material to ooze out. You got to work fast, because if you take too long, the material is going to cool, and when you try to press it, it's not going to flow. The excess is not going to come out, and you may even run into the possibility of basically fracturing the veneer, okay? So you need to consider all these things. Is it a good idea to warm up a composite? Depends on the clinical application. Depends on what you are trying to achieve. Okay? It's not necessarily like, oh no, it's going to work regardless. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay? Your viscosity is going to go down. So for sure, if you want to use it for filling purposes in a box, you're going to have better adaptation for sure. Okay? You're going to have a little bit better degree of conversion, and you might get better physical properties. That is for sure. What you are not going to get is always the desired film thickness. What you're not going to get is a long working time. And what you're not going to get is the proper information in order to let you know that it's okay to get that composite through a heating and cooling cycle over and over again, and for that composite to maintain its physical properties, its integrity, that there is no breakdown. So as a takeaway, be careful when it comes down to heating the composite. Make sure that you understand how it works. Do a couple of do a dry run. How do you do that? Heat it up, load it on a mixing pad, and put it on top of a bench top and start, handling with an instrument and see how long it takes, like time it. And now at least you will know, okay, this is going to take this long to cool and to go back to its original position, its original viscosity. So that way you know for sure your cooling rate of that material that you have. Because most companies are not going to give you the cooling rate. They're not going to tell you how long does it take to go back to its original viscosity. That's a missing piece of information that you should try to generate. So if you have a composite warmer, heat it up, and then dispenser in a mixing pad, start playing with it, and then when you start to see that it's going back to its original position, you're like, okay, stop the watch and say, okay, I got 45 seconds. I got 30 seconds. I got 3 minutes. I don't know, whatever the case may be. But you need to make sure that you know this information before you dive in, before you go all in. It is important to know, very, very important to know, that regardless of the composite, regardless of the composite warmer, regardless of all the things that I just mentioned, that you have to make sure that your composite warmer goes at least up to 50 degrees C. That is very important because it is at 50 degrees C when you start to see actually a meaningful change in the viscosity of a composite. It is at 50 degrees C. And this is where you're going to have an impact on the flowability. That is very important to understand. When you have an impact on the flowability, now you can go into a proximal box in a filling, right? And then that composite, because it's flowing, you're going to have a better adaptation. Less amount of, of bubbles, okay? There is no problem with the pullback because it flows, okay? Now, if you ask me what is the best application for warming composite, it's in the handling, not necessarily the cementation, but in the handling. Going in a proximal box, having your composite flow better down there. And now you have something that flows and something that is also strong, because flowable composites are not necessarily super strong. They are convenient, but they're not necessarily super strong. So this is where I feel that heating the composite can actually have a much interesting impact on your restorative procedure. So I'm going to provide you with a few row tips, okay? I already gave you one. I'm going to give you a few others. If you are serious about warming composites, add dent. Again, Jeremy, the producer, I don't think he's getting a check from Addent. I am definitely not getting a check from Addent. We're doing this because I believe Addent makes the most interesting devices for warming composites. That's the device that we use here in the lab. We have absolutely no affiliation with Addent. They don't sell adhesives. They don't sell cements. They sell composite warmers. They're specialists. Second row tip It's always better to warm the composite in a compule than in a syringe. Why? Because you warm it up, and most likely you're going to use it all. Okay? You're not going to go through a heat-cool cycle with a compule. If you're using syringes, things are a little different now. Okay? Again, not all composites are designed to be warmed. So I don't know what the reaction is from all composites. What happens if you cook it? Basically, you take it to 70 degrees and then you cool it to room temperature and take it to 70 degrees again. What's going to happen? I don't know. So the road tip is use a compule, heat it up in the compule attachment, dispense it, dispose the compule, and you're good to go. That is something to think about. You don't need to go through the cycles in order to, you can jeopardize physical properties. You don't want to do that. Okay? And my third road tip is that the cooling rate of a warm composite is fast.
Sip, 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 sip.
Extremely fast. So recommendation, work fast. Work fast, my guy. You can't be, like picking your nose. You can't be looking at the Instagrams or the TikTok while you're working. Okay? Wasting time, chatting with the assistant or even the patient. Hey, you don't have time. If you're working with warm composite, everybody has to be on their A game, making sure that the cooling rate doesn't beat you. Okay? You got to work fast. But for cementation procedures, it's of the essence that you work fast. Okay? It's of the essence that you work fast. So there you have it. What warming composite does, the most popular applications, the devices that you need to warm it up, the things that you need to be aware of, okay? And I don't even know if this is a road tip, but I'm going to emphasize on this. Do a little dry run. Heat it up, put it on a mixing pad, fill it with an instrument, and time yourself. And once that material goes back to or once it stops being super flowable, that's when you need to stop the watch and see, okay, I have 19 seconds or I have a minute. That is your working time. That is your working time. You need to think about that. It's really important because you need to be thorough. If you're going to use it for cementation procedures, you need to be thorough. All right? Now, let's go review this beer, this interesting ginger beer. Let's go. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to comment. So this beer, this Farm Fresh, what do I think? It's super interesting.
Sip, 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 sip.
And again, if you guys are with us since the beginning, you can see how the transformation happened. You can actually pinpoint it to which episode I said, hey, fruity beers, awful. And then I go like, hey, fruity beers are a thing. And I don't mind that at all. Actually, this is an interesting one. This beer is actually taking me to a place where I want to try more fruity beer. I think that the first time I tried a fruity beer, I didn't like it. And because of that, I shut down the possibility of trying new ones. And also, probably the first time I tried a fruity beer, I was so into IPAs that a fruity beer didn't even make any kind of like impression on me. It was probably the contrary. So I shut them down for years. But this one, Farm Fresh, super, super interesting. Interesting. What do I think about this beer? Is it balanced? Does it have aftertaste? How does it smell?
Sip, sip.
I think it's very well balanced. Does the beet taste, is it overwhelming? No, because you can also feel the ginger. You can also feel the spicy note. You can also feel the fruity note. So it's very well balanced. But you can tell there is beet in it. for sure. But that doesn't mean that this tastes like yeast, like beet beer. It doesn't. It tastes like a beer that contains a little bit of beet, and I think that's interesting. Okay. It's definitely a Belgian. It's fruity. It has that distinctive fermented aftertaste. It's not an IPA for sure. It's not that kicking the aftertaste. No, it doesn't. But it is strong, and it is very, very nice. I'm gonna give this beer a 4.2. And a 4.2 because I'm willing to have it again. It didn't disappoint at all. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Cam. Shout out to the guys from Gobert's Farm. And shout out to the guys from, what's the name of this brewery again? More Brewing from Huntley, Illinois. And the other guys are from something... Pingree Grove. Thank God for Jeremy, the producer, also, who's here to provide me with information that I will totally forget all the time. Will I drink it again? Bet your ass I will. God damn, this is good. I got to tell you. Oh, questions and answer. Let's go. Remember to send your questions to bondingandbeer@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at bondingandbeer. Make a comment, send us a note. We're here for you. A question from Kalina Carreño. Okay. Will the physical and mechanical properties of my composite change after warming? The properties, it depends. You may have a better degree of conversion. You may have a composite that is a little bit stronger, but it's all related to the formula. And the formula is different for every commercially available composite. So it's difficult to say to generalize, okay? But what will happen is that every single composite that you heat up, at least at 50 degrees Celsius and above, it's going to have a lower viscosity, for sure. So that's something, right? Something to think about. A question from Dr. Dave Carmichael. Do I need a composite warmer, or is there another way that I can warm my composites? I've seen people do it like in some sort of like water bath. I've seen people use like some of those things that you put on your back to warm your back when you have back pain. I've seen people use, I don't know, those like rubber hot water bags. I've seen all sorts of things. Listen, my guy, Dr. Carmichael, you're a dentist. Get a dental composite warmer. Get a dedicated device. Why are we looking for options? What do you want me to say? There's so many ways that you can apply heat to stuff, but there are specific devices to do specific things. Get one of them devices. You want to make popcorn? Get a microwave. You want to do some stupid things like my wife does? Get an air fryer. You know, whatever the case may be, you need specific devices to do specific tasks. Get a composite warmer. Don't look for an alternative. Doesn't make any sense. Cheers to you, Dave. Love you all. Third question. This is a question from Raquel Rosapoulos. Okay? What is your favorite Venezuelan dinner, and what beer would you... What beer would you will pair well with that? My favorite Venezuelan dinner. That's an interesting question. We have something called Venezuelan black roast. Okay, is kind of like a pot roast, but it's done in a particular way where it is like blackened with sugar. So it's got a crust or a sear that you create with caramelized sugar. And it takes a while to make. It's really, really good. And what goes well with that, it will be something like this. Yes, it's a wonderful dish. You got to have some rice with that. You got to have some sweet fried plantains. And it is a great dinner dish, okay? The only way to get one of those is to probably date a Venezuelan woman or man who has a grandma that can make that dish. All these youngins don't know how to make that dish. This is an old school OG kind of dish. So that is my favorite dish, and I will have this beer with that kind of dish. So thank you very much for asking that question. That about wraps it up for us and wraps it up for this episode. Be sure to like, to comment, to follow. Thank you so much for tuning in to Bonding and Beer. My name is Rolando Nunez, and with this little beer, I'll see you on the next episode. Let's freaking go, Jeremy, the producer. Man, this beer is awesome. That's about a wrap. I have to say this again. We're going to cut and we're going to do it again, okay? This is the first time I've ever done this.